In sports, if you want to be the best, there are no off days.
After last week's hotly contested mayoral race in the fictional town of Nod, I'm surprised that we are both back here together again, but I guess the voters have spoken loud and clear, Chris Cato. We both received 0 votes. So
you know what that means? A runoff. We're headed for a runoff, so I hope you've got your staff working on some more of those attack ads.
Either that or we just accept the anarchist state that this podcast has become.
This campaign left me bruised in many ways, Scott, due to your personal assaults. I think I shared with you that I showed our ads to my 10-year-old son, and I didn't ask him to tell me who was the best, and he sees mine, then he sees yours, and he says, Scott's ad is better. And I said, why? Because he used the word poop? And he said, no, because you do wear mom jeans.
Oh,
so
okay.
I burned all of my jeans. Look, I'm wearing these green pants.
We're
for the
starting
rest of
over.
my life. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
So thank you.
I'm glad that I at least have one, but he should have cast his ballot. That would have been the deciding vote. So we have a fun program to get to, but let's lead to it could be an oligarchy, and it's highly funded by the man behind the curtain here, our chief oligarchist. We welcome in Brian King, producer BK. So I know that you were a part of the mayoral race. You kind of oversaw it. You wanted us to play fair. And do you feel like the voters got it right?
Yes, by electing neither of you, yes. That is quite right.
Leave it to a man named King to declare
yes.
he should be the only one in power.
It got nasty really quick, guys.
It did. Got a little out of hand.
But it's good that it's past us and it's behind us. So
I think
let's move on to a new day.
All right, what do we got on the big program here today, BK?
Great show today. Starting off with the Bucs playing over in Germany this weekend, taking on the Seahawks. Sara Walsh, she'll be on the sidelines reporting for NFL Network. She'll join us live from Munich. Wonderful, yes. And the LPGA Tour is in the Bay Area this weekend, and we'll be checking in with Brittany Lincecome, one of the tour players who is from the Bay Area ties.
Yeah,
so that'll be good.
Yeah. Interested to talk to her. She just had a baby, and she's back out there on the links.
Yeah, nothing's going to keep her away.
Well, when you have those little ones at home, you want to carve out as much golf time for yourself as you can.
Absolutely. What do we have at the end of the show, BK?
End of the show, we got there's a guy who, I don't know if you've heard about this, ate a meal straight for 40 days just to kind of prove a point. So
I eat a meal every day, so usually it's 3.
But it's the same meal every single day for 40 days.
Oh, it's this. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. Well, what are you going to tell us now, or do we have to wait on that?
Let's wait and see what it is. I want you to think about what you could eat for 40 straight days, nonstop.
There's a lot.
A single meal.
Name something I couldn't eat for 40 straight days.
Or currently do. Jelly-filled donut, please. Yeah. All right, very good. Thank you, BK. We'll see you in just a minute. If you are listening and you want to watch, go to fox13news.com/NODPOD. If you're watching, you want to listen or subscribe, point the camera of the smartphone there at the QR code on the screen. It'll take you to the NODPOD splash page. You can click listen. All the shows are there for the taking. It's kind of like skipping through a field of wildflowers. You could skip, you could frolic, you could grab a Sammy and have a picnic.
Oh, a jelly-filled donut.
A jelly-filled donut. 40 straight days in the NODPOD field of wildflowers. So, a fun program to get to. Can't wait to get to some of these guests. But I want to start with what's kind of happening in both the college and the NFL landscape. I mean, you get this deep into the season, there's going to be hot seat rumors with coaches, but now starting to see some of these coaches fall off. And in the NFL, it was Frank Reich with the Colts, and they have replaced him with Jeff Saturday, who, of course, Colts fans know quite well. He was the longtime center for Peyton Manning, 6-time Pro Bowler, but he has 0 coaching experience, at least at any upper echelon levels. High school, maybe on the resume there. So a lot of people are like, wow, we're going to do this. We're going to experiment here mid-season with an interim coach in Jeff Saturday.
Well, Jim Irsay pointed out that he has been a consultant for the Colts, so I'm sure you've had consultants in your career before. How would you like your consultant to be your boss? I wouldn't like that at all. It's an interesting move. Clearly, Irsay has a lot of faith in Jeff Saturday. I think, one hurdle will be they also fired their offensive coordinator before firing Frank Reich, so who's calling plays for the Colts? How is this going to go? How critical is it, do you think, for an interim coach to have some kind of play calling experience, and usually it's someone on your staff who moves up and fills that interim.
I mean,
role,
if they're an offensive coordinator, I want them to have play calling experience. But I mean, usually when you have interim coaches, the expectation is extremely low. It's just to sail this boat through the finish line, and we will reconsider everything in the off season, because most of these interim coaches never stay. That doesn't happen. So I kind of look at this from Saturday's perspective as this is just an audition to become a potential coach one day, and he has nothing to really lose except a lot of football games. But in terms of his reputation, I mean, he's a talking head on ESPN. I'm sure he will have his job there waiting for him when he gets done. So it's interesting, but it does beg the question: are there coaches that you could see becoming coaches that have no coaching experience? Are there names out there, if you were a GM, you were an owner of a franchise, say, you know what, hey, the season's pretty much lost, got nothing to lose, let's go reach out to this guy?
Well, and we're talking someone who has never coached at the NFL level before.
Yeah.
I've star power. And he has coached in movies. I would go Matthew McConaughey.
I thought you were going Al Pacino for a second.
Well, that would be a good one. Scarface. No, I think McConaughey. He could rally the troops. He's
play the bongo drums a little bit.
Yeah. Well, he was We Are Marshall. He did a great job as a coach in that film, and he's on the University of Texas's staff as the Minister of Culture, so he could instill that. And also, I think he's also involved in this group now that may buy the Redskins, so he may actually not want to coach the Colts if he's going to be owning the Redskins.
Easier to be the owner. You don't have as much pressure on you.
But I think McConaughey would do a good job, though.
You know who the inspirational speaker Jocko is?
Jocko,
the Marine. Have you seen this guy?
I feel.
Oh man,
is that the guy on your? Is that who's on your shirt today?
No, it's not. It's not Jocko. But I would look at that guy. He's like viral videos of inspirational speeches. But if I can't get Jocko, I'm going to consider The Rock. Rock has played.
Yes.
He has experience. He knows how to lead, how to manage. I think the guys would rally toward him. He would lead off every speech with, "Can you smell what The Rock is cooking?" And they would robustly, respond and go out there and play hard for him. I also like Pitbull.
Oh yeah, sure.
We frequently mention him on the show.
Armando, as Ross Chastain taught us to call him.
Yes, he has coined such inspirational phrases like "turn a negative into a positive." I mean, that's a lesson.
That sounds original.
Exactly. Live life, don't let life live you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I want to hear before I'm running out on the field. There's no losing, only learning. So there you go. I mean, he's not hard. He sounds like a player's coach.
I just thought he promoted Dr. Pepper and Bud Light and vodka and anything else he can get his hands on.
And he'd be able to market your team quite well.
Yeah,
so
he's good.
In college, it's a little bit more local. USF starts over. They have fired Jeff Scott after 3 abysmal seasons, 4 total wins out of 30 games, and now they're trying to find somebody else. This is not a Power 5. This is a Group of 5 program. They've struggled in the American Conference in recent years. They have building projects underway, so there is a brighter future ahead for this program. But which direction do you go? John Gruden was a name that was mentioned.
Of course.
Yeah, I would say that like the idea of a John Gruden seems like it would be a perfect fit for him trying to rehab his image, get back into the swing of things, stay local, very low on the expectation scale, but. On the good side, it's a name that will immediately be able to resonate with a large portion of the audience when it comes to recruiting.
I don't think it'd be a good fit. I think it's a name and that's about it. How hard does he want to grind and kiss boosters' hands and also do the NIL fundraising that is now such a part of the college football landscape and put up with these kids, recruit? That's hard. I don't think he wants to go grind.
Of course, he would have to want that. It's a matter of both sides wanting it, but I think that it would potentially fit. Deion Sanders is another name. I think he's already, with what he's done at Jackson State, has kind of passed the gaze of the schools in kind of the mid-major realm.
Yeah, he could work. I mean, he's obviously got the energy for recruiting. He's got the name brand. He can deliver the promise of getting you to the NFL because he's been there. He's brought in 5-star talent at Jackson State. He could certainly do that with the fertile recruiting ground we have here in Florida. he could fit. He'd be a huge name, obviously. I would look at Matt Rule, too. He's a rebuilder, and that's what this program in Tampa, Florida, USF needs. It's kind of in shambles now, and he did the same. He did that at Temple. He took Baylor, that was just decimated after the whole Art Briles scandal, and had them contending for Big 12 championships. He's not afraid of recruiting. He gets a good what he did at Baylor that worked well is he got a lot of high school coaches that were familiar in the state to be on his staff. He could do that easily here in Florida. I think Matt Rule is a guy who gets a call.
Tom Herman's another name. Scott Frost is another name. So we shall see. But one of the things that you could probably mark John Gruden off the list is that Michael Kelly, the athletic director at USF, said he wants kind of a coach that has a modern sensibilities when it comes to college football and the landscape. And I think that's all about NIL. And it's a guy like Deion gets it, obviously, and a lot of these coaches are learning on the job how to recruit and build a program when that's a big part of it. All right, speaking of the college football landscape right now, the playoff rankings are out for the second week now, and we have Georgia sitting on top after their big win. And they jump from 3 to 1. Ohio State in at 2, Michigan 3. TCU rounds out the top 4. Trying to kind of play this thing out. We got 3 weeks left in the college football regular season. What kind of scenarios can play out? We know that we're probably not going to see 2 Big Ten teams. Michigan and Ohio State going to face one another at the end of the season. The SEC with LSU, could they be a team that comes in and spoils the party? They've done this now last week against your team, but they have two losses on the season. If they're the SEC champs, I think they're definitely in the top 4.
You think they would be in?
I would think so.
If they run the table and win, let's say they play Georgia in the SEC championship, you think LSU's in?
Yeah, I think a 2-loss SEC champion is in.
I just have a hard time believing that a 2-loss team would get in. It hasn't happened yet in the 8-year college football playoff.
Well, if they
era.
beat Georgia and Georgia is sitting there at 1 loss, you have to have 2 teams in the SEC in then.
Tennessee would would benefit from that. Tennessee would get in over LSU. You can't take away what Tennessee did to LSU 3 weeks ago at LSU. They beat them down. So Tennessee's probably cheering for this scenario. It would benefit them. And, LSU lost the first game of the season to Florida State, which is now, a pretty good team. But I just don't see it. Even with that conference title, with beating a program like Georgia, which would be the number 1 team in the land, I don't see LSU getting it.
So in that scenario, you think that the playoff committee would put then Georgia in, that just lost in the SEC championship game, leave the SEC champ out, and potentially get Tennessee in?
I don't think the SEC champ with 2 losses or any conference champion with 2 losses getting in. Now that's a good question. Would they put 2 SEC teams who each have a loss and aren't conference champs in? Probably not. Probably just one of those. It always depends on what else happens in the other conferences and how that loss looks. If LSU wins a squeaker on a last-second field goal over Georgia, I could still see Georgia getting in because they've been so dominant.
I don't see how you could keep a team. Again, this is a scenario of them now rattling off some really significant wins and winning the SEC, beating the number 1 team in the country. You can't keep LSU out. You just couldn't.
You could. Okay, if you have if TCU remains undefeated, wins the Big 12, you got to put them in.
I think it doesn't matter. I think the SEC champ will be in, with the exception of LSU losing another game down the stretch and being a 3-loss SEC champ. I think LSU, if they run the table, they are in the rest of the way if they beat Georgia. And I think the question is how many SEC teams can potentially get in. And I think if LSU wins the SEC, are you talking about 3 SEC teams possibly getting in? If LSU wins the SEC championship, Georgia would be the number 1 team at that point in time, just assuming, and I think they still make it in. You would need TCU to lose down the stretch.
Which is likely.
The Pac-12 would need to beat up one another.
They always do.
UCLA, USC, they're going to face one another. Oregon has to face Utah here in the regular season down the stretch. Plus,
play a championship
what happens
game.
in the championship game. So there is a possibility that TCU or Tennessee, rather, a team that isn't going to get into the championship game most likely, could sit in there and maybe become the third team. I don't think it's a good look.
You know what? I think it opens the door more for it. If LSU wins the SEC championship, is 2 Big Ten teams getting in, and that would be Ohio State and Michigan. I think that's more likely, the 2 Big Ten teams getting in than
the 2-loss SEC champ LSU.
Yes.
Wow. I don't see it that way. But we do know that one thing that they like to do in the SEC is storm the field after big wins.
They do. Only over Alabama, though. That's the only time they storm the field.
Only LSU. They've done it now 4 times this year. And there are heavy fines that happen when you storm the field. Yeah. And the SEC is trying to discourage fans from doing it with these hefty fines. $50,000 to the university for the first offense, $100,000 for the second offense, and then $250 every time after. And after that, LSU's storming of the field against Alabama, another $250,000 fine. How do you stop that from happening?
It's called razor wire. No,
right.
Not razor wire, but no, you have to, and I think it's going to be addressed, right? Because we've seen after the Alabama-Tennessee field storming, an Alabama player, some say hit, others say he shouldn't have touched a female fan on the field. Then we saw an Alabama coach after the LSU field storming who was aggressively pursued by an LSU fan, and they had to escort the coach off the field. So the SEC has said they're going to meet and address this field storming thing and come up with some stricter protocols. How do you keep 80,000 people from jumping into the stand? You have to have a barrier of some sort. A nice looking fence with spikes on it, with spikes on the top.
Yeah.
You got to do something.
I don't know. I don't think that they should. But I think that's part of what you love about sports, is that there's an engagement with the fans, and then sometimes it kind of pours over. That you can't control a World Series or Super Bowl celebration in the streets of a town. When wins like this happen in an environment that is packed with 100,000 people, and a lot of them are under the age of 25. Like, they don't care about a fine that the university
they'll care about a spiky fence. I agree that
you can't do that. I mean,
why not? This is why you lost the mayoral race. Your border policies are weak. No, I agree that the field storming, court storming in basketball is special. It separates college from the pros and that kind of thing. But you can't do it every time. I mean, is everyone going to storm the field when they is beating Alabama worth storming the field now? They're just kind of an okay team. You have to have a limit. I mean, do you set a limit? Do you tell a university, okay, you get 1 field storming per year?
But the university is not going to be. My point is that you can't regulate that. I think that the fan base has to realize that it's not cool anymore. That's it.
Well, that's not going to happen.
They can't just sit there and man it with, I'm going to put 24 security guards around the outside, and I'm going to start arresting kids once they jump down on the field. Good luck. It might discourage it to some degree. But my guess is that the next gigantic win, they're just going to run right past you. So, I don't know. I think that, you look at the ACC, the Big Ten, they don't incur any fines for storming the field. It maybe not be as big an issue.
They don't have a reason.
Maybe the fan base isn't as passionate. But yeah, it's one of those things that, I think it's become watered down. The reasons for storming a field have become less and less over the years, and it becomes a popular thing. There is a danger. One of those, the goalpost snaps off and whips a fan like that. This is dangerous stuff, but I don't think there's a way you can really regulate it. If you want to build fences around your stadium to keep the fans out, that's one way to
build
do it.
Build the fence.
Build that wall.
Tear down the hedges.
It's
build
a big,
the fence.
Beautiful wall. Chris, what do you say we talk a little football? International football, mind you.
Right. Soccer?
Absolutely. No, incorrect.
Oh.
She covers the Bucs with the NFL Network, is part of the broadcast team on the call for this weekend's game in Germany. All the way from Munich, we welcome in Sara Walsh. Sara, thank you for joining us. Guten Tag. Have you been brushing up on your German?
I have. My family's actually from Germany, and if you want to talk soccer, I can do that too, because we were at a Bayern Munich game last night.
I saw that. I've been watching your Instagram. It looks like you guys had. Did that make you were a 4-year starter at North Florida and Jacksonville? Did that make you want to run out onto the pitch and see if you still got it?
Obviously. No, it's so funny. This is how warped I am. I always and I cover the national team, and I have for Fox previously. And I would always, the women's side, but like I would watch these games and I'm like, could I, like, honestly, like, could I get out there? And it's like, you know, like dudes playing like flag football in the backyard being like, oh, I could play linebacker in the other. Like, I can't, like, I wasn't even at that level then, but there's like a warped side of you. So even last night in this Bundesliga game, I'm like, I mean, like, what if I was like on the field? Like, no, I know it's so warped, and yet that is what I think. And I've never seen a field like a pitch like that. I mean, look, I grew up a soccer player in the Tampa area, and soccer is not over there what it is here. And so you hear that all the time. I've never seen it. I've never been to a Premier League game. I've never been to a Bundesliga game. So walking into that stadium and seeing that kind of soccer, it was insane to me. Just it's everything you think. It's like the Ted Lasso stuff you think. It's awesome. And it was the stadium that the Bucs will be on, will be playing at Sunday night. So it was actually cool too to be in there, and the environment was so insane. And then to think that like, oh, I'll get to be on the field on Sunday because I'm actually on the game, like that was like really cool too.
Well, you know, we've seen the games at Wembley and at Tottenham, and you know, how are the digs? Like, how nice is this stadium, and how do you expect the kind of the crowd to look on Sunday night or Sunday morning?
I can tell you this. So I've never been to Munich before. It's so pretty. It looks like it's not Christmas. They don't have Christmas stuff up yet, but it's what you like kind of imagine, this like perfect picturesque little like Christmas village town, minus the Christmas trees aren't yet. Like, it's just like, it's something out of sort of that Cameron Diaz movie, The Holiday, even though I know they were in England. It was just like it's very picturesque. It's very clean. It's very pretty. I could not believe, I know that everyone was like, well, the Germans will all speak English to you. Like, they really do. Literally every single person speaks English to you. You walk into a store, and before you even open your mouth, they're like, hey, how are you doing? And I'm like, how do you know? Like, they know. They are so excited about the NFL being here. It is impossible to get tickets. They're going for like 2,000 euros a piece, which is really $2,000 a piece. The wait to even get tickets was insane. This is like a Super Bowl for them. So I've never done one of the London games, so I don't know how it compares to London, but London has had them now for a couple of years. Mexico has had them. Germany's never had it. So it's super exciting for them. This place is going crazy. Like, they're just so excited to have this here, and it's different. And although I will tell you this, I was in makeup earlier today, and the girl that was doing my hair said she's never heard of Tom Brady.
Oh,
so
wow.
I know that.
Wow.
Yeah.
You educated her then.
Yeah, well, like, it's just like, again, the like global, like soccer, global, and football is, it's very hard to find someone who doesn't know who Tom Brady is and had never heard of him. And then my makeup artist is like, well, like, well, I don't even want to get into it. Like, people he's been married to, like, you know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah.
But, yeah. Like, she's very famous, but it's just very, very rare. But that like goes to show you. Now I think that my hair girl was like probably the minority of people that have not heard of Tom Brady, but you can't go anywhere in America with that happening. It just doesn't happen.
Well, I think that's going to change over the next few years, because them playing in Munich is part of this initiative by the NFL, and that's one of those, I guess it's basically like a fan recruiting site for the Bucs, that they have an opportunity to market their product, and because expansion is in.
They've talked about having a European division, right?
Do you think, just having been there this week, do you see a vision for that? Do you feel like that is more doable when they talk about having kind of a Western Europe division?
It would be awesome. I'm not sure how you would do it. I mean, as it is, like, this season is such a grind for these guys, as like just now going to 17 games, and like, how would you do that? I guess if you had a division that's just playing over, it's a lot. Like, I know it's logistically a lot for the Bucs to be coming over here. I know it's logistically a lot for this. It's a lot. It's a lot of planning. I think the interest, if they judge by like the tickets interest, like the interest is huge. Yeah. It's I don't know, it's just very cool. Like, it's very cool to see people so excited about something that is just kind of our everyday norm on a Sunday, probably like how I was at the soccer game last night. They're just like so excited about it, and that's cool to see. And it's just it's such a fabric of like our lives, but here it's an anomaly to them, so they're so excited. And I know that obviously like the league wants to expand. It's interesting you said that about the marketing thing, because I didn't realize. So when I got over here, Saturday mornings when I arrived, and I would go running around town, and there were Bucs signs everywhere. And I was thinking like, well, where's the Seahawks stuff? God, this is very like Bucs bias, and it's because they're one of the 4 marketing, which you had alluded to. And then as I did some research, the Hofbrauhaus is this famous, it's like the most famous place where everyone goes and gets their German beer and all this stuff. And the whole Hofbrauhaus is like, it's all like Bucks paraphernalia. And I just kept thinking they were going to put up the Seahawks stuff, and they didn't. And so it's definitely a heavier like Bucks sway over here, but that has to do with their marketing deal, which I wasn't even totally aware of or thinking about when I was going around town. But it's a heavy Bucks contingent here in Munich.
For sure. I got to ask you, on the field for this Bucks team, they come off a big win I don't know that they've answered all the questions that we still have. They didn't score their first touchdown until the remaining 9 seconds of last week's game against the Rams. But I have to give a lot of credence to the mental aspect of snapping a 3-game skid. Where do you think this team is going into Munich? How much of a relief was getting one off their back last week?
Well, it had to be a huge relief, right? And I totally, for us being over here and trying to be like, it's the Seahawks and the Bucks, it definitely helps that we've got two teams that are coming off wins. You have two teams that are leading their division. And I think that's what's been the weirdest thing about the Bucks, trying to wrap your mind around the fact that, if you're in Tampa, it's been all gloom and doom and it hasn't looked good. And you're saying all these things, and how many teams would love to be leading their division? Right. That being said, so it's sort of like, how do you temper the what's wrong, but the reality is you alluded to this, they scored with 9 seconds left to go. If that isn't a touchdown, if Kate Otten drops that pass, if they don't get in there, like, what is the narrative this week? I mean, it is far different than, I think that this team kind of just needed to find its confidence. And I don't know that means that we see them on Sunday coming out and firing touchdowns left and right, because we have not seen that all season long. I think, I talked to Chris Godwin this week, and he said something, and he goes, I think we're really close. Now, I know that's like cliche, right? And guys always say that. And he goes, I know what you're going to think. He goes, I know exactly what you're going to think. He's like, it doesn't look like, from the product that we put on the field, I know it doesn't look like that. And he's like, but like from the guys on the inside. And I have to believe that like they're saying that because for a reason. And I know it could just be a soundbite, right? But he was like, I know how it looks. But I also think with him in particular, he told me he hasn't been 100%, right? He came back from an ACL faster than anybody expected. And then as soon as he's on the field, I think we expect him to be him. And he told me that's been challenging. Like, he's still like working back to getting to where he was. And that's also been a narrative. I know Byron was asked, like, you don't really have this third receiver. It's Mike and Chris not the normal Chris we've seen, because he's working way back. And then there's nobody at 3. So what are teams doing? They take away Mike and Chris. And so I think mentally it has to be huge. You hope that it changes some things. You hope that maybe this defense, which we're used to seeing get takeaways, somehow comes up with some on Sunday, and maybe that starts the ball rolling. But I'm also not naive enough to think that you scored a touchdown with 9 seconds left, like all their problems are fixed. Right. And I'll tell you, I really thought, not that the problems were fixed, but I thought they would come out against Pittsburgh and just roll. I thought that would be it. I thought they'd come out against Pittsburgh. I thought Tom would throw like 4 touchdowns and would be like, okay, here's the Bucks. Yeah. And then when that didn't happen, I was like, oh, they're going to kill the Panthers. Cause I thought they would go back to the meeting rooms and be like, cause I just think in this time that we've seen Tom there, they typically correct what goes wrong. Like, we saw him do it against the Chiefs. We saw him do it against the Saints. Like, when they've had these bad losses, they always figure it out. And we just haven't seen that this year. And when they came up against the Panthers, and I was so sure that they would crush them, let alone it going the other way, I like can't say like, oh, I feel like they'll come out and cry. I don't feel like, you know what I mean? Like, we just haven't seen that. No. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know the exact reason, like, you haven't seen it. And there's just not one thing you can pinpoint to. Do I think a win maybe like changes something mentally that can spur you on when you're not there, where you would be normally? Like, maybe, I mean, maybe that they have to hope for that. And then I also need news from you guys, because I have reports to do on NFL Network, and I'm so far from home. Like, what's happening with the storm there? Are the Bucks getting here? Like, I mean, I'm like trying to like go back home and be like, what's happening down there?
Do you want to give a weather report here, Chris?
Where's our chief meteorologist? East coast of Florida is about to get whacked with some tropical storm or small, weaker hurricane force winds. But here in the Tampa Bay area, we're expecting by Thursday evening some possible wind gust of 45, 50 miles an hour. Nothing severe.
We should mention that we're taping this on a Wednesday. So.
Of course, yes. This may already be passed you by. But it looks like it's going to be a coastal event storm surge event for the east coast of Florida, some high winds over there, north of West Palm, but in the Tampa Bay area. The Bucs should be fine getting out.
Well, they leave tomorrow, so they leave on Thursday, but I haven't heard any change of plans.
Yeah.
I just know there was people getting very nervous, like people and fans and family that are coming over from Tampa. And again, we're in the middle of November. It just was not on my radar. And who knew I had to come to Munich for the good weather? Because it's been awesome over here.
It looks great.
So I left Tampa and it was beautiful. And then the next thing you know, this pops up and I'm like, wait, what's happening? So I've been kind of trying to like monitor some of that from over where we are. And like I said, we've been really fortunate over here. The rain is coming in on Thursday, which is when the Seahawks arrive. So that seems pretty appropriate for them. But yeah, it's been an awesome experience, and hopefully the game will be as well on Sunday.
The tide starts to turn in Munich. That's where the story gets written, Chris, this season for the Bucs. You nailed it, though, Sarah. I mean, there's so many things that people just haven't really gotten their minds around. Why is a team that seemingly is as talented as the Bucs struggling the way they are? At some point, will that start to turn? And perhaps it takes flying halfway across the world to turn things around. Well, we hope that you enjoy plenty of Bratwurst, and
a schnitzel,
and a pilsner.
And Prost, I believe, is what you say,
it's
right?
Cheers.
Yeah,
cheers.
There we go.
Cheers to it. Yeah, we've had several of those.
Well, prost to you, and thank you so much for joining us, and all the best this weekend. Safe travels back. Sarah Walsh.
Thanks for your time, Sarah. Thank you.
Chris, have you been to Germany?
I have once.
Yeah?
Dusseldorf. Have you heard of Dusseldorf?
I have. I thought that was like a fictional place. No, is that not where they did Lord of the Rings?
That was my nickname in high school. They were like, Dusseldorf, go to Germany.
Get over here.
Get us a schnitzel. No, Dusseldorf, it was a dream job assignment a long time ago when they allowed local media to tour with local Air Force bases. They took us on a tour of U.S. bases in Europe, and one is near Dusseldorf.
Is it Germany. Ramstein?
No, it's not. You're going to ask me the name of the base, and I'm not going to remember it.
It's fine. It's fine. I think
it's not Ramstein, but Ramstein is one.
Right, that's one of them. I've heard of that.
Yes, but I have been there. I would love to go back.
Yeah. Well, very good. I mean, it's a busy weekend. We got the Bucs away, but locally we have a big golf tournament taking place, the Pelican Golf Women's Championship.
Battling the weather.
Yeah, so it'll be a lot of fun, and that leads right into our next guest. She has 8 LPGA wins, 2-time major champion, and she hails from the great state of Florida, Chris. Let's welcome to the program Brittany Lincecum, competing in the Pelican Women's Championship in the Bay Area this week. And Brittany, it's a big week for you personally because this is your return to the tour after the birth of your second child, which I believe was back in August, right? So what are the challenges that you individually are facing as you get ready to compete?
It's definitely going to be more challenging with 2. 1 was pretty easy. Somebody could always help me with her. And now having 2, a little bit different. The 3-month-old doesn't like to sleep right now. So not getting too much sleep. So relying on Starbucks a lot these days. But, it's great. It's a home game. Like you said, I can drive to the golf course. I can sleep in my own bed, keep my family here in the house, have a home cooked meal. So what better event than to start right in my backyard?
Yeah, that's a good home field advantage. Yeah. So that's after having Sophia. Let's talk about when Sophia was still waiting to make her appearance. You played your last event in June at 30 weeks pregnant. What was that like? How difficult was that, or was it difficult for you?
It's actually almost 33 weeks pregnant, and I felt fine. I felt great. I wasn't that big, so I could still play, and I was competing pretty well. So why not just keep going? It really, really helped keep, those what's supposed to be 40 weeks. They kind of went by really fast, just being out on the golf course and doing what I love. So, I was super lucky she came at 36 weeks, which was great. We got to, spend an extra month with her, which was incredible. And she's growing like a weed, but it's such a cool experience to go through all that and be able to kind of do my job and, be pregnant at the same time. It's been awesome.
Well, the name of our podcast is No Off Days, and I feel like you have embodied that you didn't take any off days. But now little Sophia is 3 months, you said? Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
So I know that between you and then your husband is like a former long drive competitor. Does Sophia already have a club in her hand, or is this too soon?
Not yet, but I'm sure it's only a matter of time. The 3-year-old has some clubs, but we still just kind of whack the dog with them. We don't really know how to play the game of golf yet. So, maybe a little bit more time, and then she'll get the hang of it.
Dog leg to the left, right? Well, this is the LPGA has grown very rapidly in the last couple of years. You got a lot of young stars. This event you're playing in here in Bel Air, the Pelican, is in its third year. Bigger purse this year, as with a lot of the LPGA events. How exciting is it? How exciting is it to have an event like this in your backyard?
Yeah, it's fantastic. We used to have the JCPenney Classic back in the day, that team competition. And I remember going to that, being the standard bearer, and just thinking how cool it would be one day to be a professional golfer. So to have this event in my backyard, to be on the tour for 18 years now. And like you said, all this young talent up and coming, the tour is getting harder and harder. And, it's just, you have to have your A game every week. You can't slack at all. Maybe kind of around even par, 1 over used to make the cut every week. Now you have to be under par every week. So it's just getting tougher and tougher. And it's cool to see the direction the tour is going. We have more events on tour, like 34, I think, on the schedule now. Purses are getting bigger. It's just a great time to be a part of the LPGA.
So give us a little bit of that perspective from when you first joined the tour in 2005, correct? How has the LPGA changed over the course of that time?
Just definitely more events. I think when I first started, we had like low 20s, now like almost 34, 35 on the schedule. Next year, we're playing for over $100 million in prize money, which is incredible. It's just, it's getting younger, like you said already. It's just the talent is getting harder. It used to be kind of the top 20 on the money list were the same girls that won every week. Now, you can go down to, like, the sky's the limit, really, honestly. I can't even give you a number. Anybody on tour can win these days, and it just shows how deep the tour goes and just how talented all the players are. College, whether they come out of college or whether they turn pro out of high school, the talent is really stepping up its game for sure.
Well, Pelican Golf Club President Dan Doyle said earlier this week, and you probably heard this, that he would like to see this at one point become the Masters on the Ladies Tour. How is that accomplished? That is a lofty expectation to throw out there, but how do you get there?
That's a great question. I feel like he's already on the right track. He has an amazing golf course. Even last year was the first year with fans. And then he said, asked all of us players, sent out emails asking, what he could have done better. And it's cool to see, a new sponsor come into the LPGA to care about us so much and to really care about what he could do better for us. So some small little tweaks, he already fixed those. And sorry, my 3-year-old, you want to say hi?
Say hi.
Yeah,
there she is.
Hey.
Hi.
Are you going to be watching some golf this week?
Go. Oh yeah, she knows when mommy puts on golf clothes that mommy's going to play golf. So it's really cool to see her already putting those 2 and 2 together. But back to Dan and the Doyles, he's bringing on Annika next year. that's only going to elevate the game. The purse is doubling. Holy cow, guys! Go away.
That's actually better. This is real. We like real.
The purse is doubling. The purse is getting bigger. So the Doyle family is already stepping up its game, and I truly believe if he feels like he wants this to be the Masters for the ladies, he will make it that. He will get it there, and it's just cool to see him, spending so much time, money, effort into the LPGA to make it better for us.
Brittany is a father of a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. Those moments I still go through all these years later. So you get to look forward to that. But now they just fight with each other. So, So the renaming of the tour next year is actually going to be the Annika. So I guess it kind of takes after the Masters and that kind of singular name. Did you have any sway in maybe trying to get it called the Brittany?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was an option. So I'm a little bit bummed that I didn't think of that, already to try to throw that out there. But Annika has done so much for the game, and she's such her resume is just incredible. So anything she's going to put her name on, she's going to want it to be the best. So I think with the Doyle family and Annika being involved, this tournament is going to be incredible. It's already incredible. It's really one of the best ones on our tour. So I can't even imagine how much better it's going to be in the future.
Well, we see on the men's tour, obviously, what LIV has done, and that in addition to providing other opportunities, it's kind of provided somewhat of a polarizing topic for those that are now affiliated with the LIV Tour. Greg Norman has said that he'd like to expand that to the women's side of things. Do you see that taking place, and how intriguing would those possibilities be?
Yeah, people have asked me this in the past, and I haven't been personally invited or asked to go play. So I don't, honestly know what direction I would go in personally. And then we had a meeting actually last night with the tour, and the commissioner said, we haven't even spoken to them yet. They haven't come our way just yet. But I mean, I know some players love it, some players hate it. So it's definitely finding the middle ground and trying to figure out what the best for the tour is, I guess. But, girls got to do what they got to do. If they're throwing big dollars out, yeah, it would be hard to pass up, but obviously there's other side to that as well. So I guess that's a bridge that we're going to have to cross when we get there. And I guess the LPGA and them we're not there yet. So. Well,
Tiger has taken his claim and his stake on this topic, but he is also going to be coming into town here in a few weeks to play at the very course that you are playing at as part of this match. How cool! Do you watch those? When you get to see like the trash talk that takes place between these guys out on the course, is it similar to what you go through?
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm definitely hoping to get a ticket to go out there and check it out because it's going to be something very special. But I would imagine it's the same kind of on our tour when, we're playing either a birdie game or even in the tournament rounds and you're playing with a buddy, just kind of what you say to them, during the round. I'm sure it'll be even funnier because it's a kind of more of an exhibition, 12 holes. But I am super excited to get out there and go watch those guys light it up under the lights, no less, which is going to be really amazing for sure.
That is intriguing. I'm sure I haven't checked out the lighting situation there, but glow in the dark balls would always be fun.
They've yet to invite us to play out there. Brittany, you made history a few years ago playing with an exception in a PGA Tour event and just narrowly missing the cut. Have you thought about a future opportunity to take another swing at that?
I haven't. Again, it's one of those things like the LIV Golf. I haven't been approached to do it yet, so I don't really think about it. But I can tell you that one time that I did play, I was super concerned more so about how the fans would react or even the media would react to it. And everybody was amazing. It was truly one of the coolest experiences I've ever done. The PGA guys, when I got there and I was hitting balls on the range, a lot of them came up to me and said, "Hey, so great you're here. Welcome to the tour." And everyone was super friendly. And I didn't get too many, negative marks on social media, which was really nice of people to not, beat me up too bad. But it was really cool. We got like 4 inches of rain or something silly a couple days prior to teeing it up on Thursday. So the golf course just played so much longer than I was anticipating. But it was a really cool experience, and I was happy I did it.
But no hurricane.
No.
That will be maybe a new experience.
Because here in Florida,
right? Because you are a Tampa Bay product, I got to ask you: Are you a fan of the other teams in town? Or are you a Bucks fan, Lightning fan?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Bucks, Rays, Lightning. Obviously, it's a great time to be a Tampa Bay fan for sure.
Oh yeah. How do the Bucks turn it around, Brittany?
Well, I wonder, now the divorce is done. I don't know, maybe he can get his head back in the game, but I'm sure that is not easy to be going through right now.
Oh, without question. And that was the hardest question that we had for you. How do the Bucks figure this thing out? So they still have another half of the season to go. Well,
they'll get it. They always turn it around. We'll be fine.
Exactly. Well, we appreciate your time, and we, along with your rather large crowd that will be on hand at the Pelican this week, will be cheering you on to a victory, hopefully your 9th LPGA Tour victory here this week in your own backyard. Brittany Lincecum, thanks for joining the program.
Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you so much. That would be fantastic.
We'll be watching your girls play in about 20 years too. So
yeah,
that's great.
I'll be caddying for them. Oh my gosh, that'd be so cool.
Wonderful.
Good stuff.
Thanks, Brittany.
Thank you.
During our interviews, Chris, have you been doing some Googling?
I found Jocko. This is Jocko you spoke of.
Do you recognize him?
I'm intimidated just looking at his. I don't recognize him. It says he's an author, but he looks like the only books he's probably encountered are the ones he tore in half. He looks like he could get some discipline instilled in a football team.
His neck is thicker than your waist, so yeah.
Well, that's not saying a lot.
I think he would fire him up, for sure. All right, let's bring in Brian King back in the booth. BK, good show, but I think you're going to set us off in the right direction here because it's approaching lunchtime.
I'm hungry.
I'm getting hungry, so food is always on the menu.
What's on the menu, buddy?
What's on the menu? A guy in Philadelphia set a record, I guess, or something. He just wanted to challenge himself to eat the same meal every single day for 40 straight days.
Sounds like a dude thing to do.
It does. And his meal of choice was a full rotisserie chicken.
Yeah.
I love rotisserie chicken, but 40 straight days, I'm not sure.
That's messy. Yeah, get a little. I mean, you got to have a bib, fork, knife. We're just shredding into it.
The videos I watched of him, he was just picking it apart,
so you've
kind
seen
of
this.
caveman style. You can't watch much of it because there are a lot of squelching sounds. But and the funny thing is, no, it wasn't to set a record or to compete in one of these viral online challenges or as a fundraiser or anything. He just did it because he thought it would make people smile. So he ate rotisserie chicken, 1 per day for 40 straight days.
Well, Brian's smiling right now.
I am.
Or maybe that's just gas. I don't know.
He likes a good rotisserie chicken.
Yeah.
This guy also lost 16 pounds during the course of this, but he said he
straight protein, baby.
But he felt awful because of after about day 20, the sodium had taken over his body, and he was just seizing up and cramping and sweating nonstop. So I'm not sure that's the way to go about losing 16
Those might have been
pounds.
genetically modified old chickies.
Yeah, you never know what you're getting, I guess.
Is there a food that you guys could eat for 40 straight days?
Yeah.
Tell me.
I mean, you want me to go down the list?
I mean, it has to be a meal. It can't be. I mean, everybody could eat a donut or a Twinkie.
I think we have to say that it has to be something comparable to a full rotisserie chicken, right? Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if that's like a full pizza.
Yeah,
I think I could probably do that every day.
You could eat a full pizza.
Well, I mean, okay, look. So if we're not worried about our intake, like what if it's good for us or not?
No, we're not.
There's a lot of things. Yeah, I could eat a whole pizza every day.
You could.
I wouldn't get
cheese or
anything.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever, any kind. It doesn't matter. Very low bar when it comes to pizza quality.
I think by day 10 you would be sick. You'd be sick of it. Yes.
Maybe physically sick. Yes. It's a lot of dough.
That's a lot of commitment, man.
Yeah, I'd be 450 pounds, but it's, yeah. What about you guys?
With the pizza, you could at least kind of change it up some. So, you could have.
I don't care about changing it up. I really don't.
Pepperoni straight every day.
I could eat pepperoni every day. Yeah, probably 3 meals a day.
I could do that for a couple weeks, not 40 days.
I don't think I could either.
I think I could eat
Penang curry.
I think I could eat a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts. The original glaze. I think I could eat a dozen of those for 40 days.
Yeah, those would go down.
Because you could kind of just go back to them. We don't have to do it in 30 minutes, right? You could just kind of have a couple in the morning. Then you're bopping around at work. You grab one, and those things kind of melt in your mouth.
It sounds like something you already do. The way you bop a little bit. You're like,
I have one in my pocket here. Would you like one?
This is my routine.
I'm pretty sure though that too would get. Can you imagine the sugar intake after just even 2 weeks of eating a dozen?
A lot of
Krispy
naps
Kreme
after those crashes
per day.
See, I think it's one sitting though. I mean, this guy pounded that chicken in one sitting.
Yeah.
Can you pound a dozen donuts in just one sitting?
No, but we didn't say that's the rules.
Oh,
but I did notice that his sittings, at first he was eating them in like 20 minutes, and then it became a 2-hour process by the end of it.
Yeah.
He was basically having to wash them down with water. But
I used to work with a gentleman that actually would eat rotisserie chickens with his hands, and it would drip everywhere. It was quite disgusting, actually. And so this person will remain nameless, but it's Was
it Brian? What could you eat, Brian?
Put the chicken in your mouth
for 40 straight days.
I mean,
is there?
Rotisserie chicken's so big. A pizza's so big. I mean, honestly, I think I could. It would be rough, but something like a quarter pounder and cheese and fries or something like that. It's a meal.
Yeah, it's
got to be one setting. You just need to knock it out, but you would. God, 3 days, you'd be tough. It'd be tough to get.
Yeah, I think that's less food, less
but
intake
a big
than
spaghetti maybe.
What about a 32-ounce porterhouse? Could you
No,
one a day?
No,
that's a lot.
16 ounce is 32 too
much.
Yeah,
I could do a 16-ounce
a day. Yeah,
give me a strip. Yeah. 16-ounce New York strip
stuff's expensive right now, though. Someone would have to sponsor you.
Yeah, if someone else is paying for it, I'm down. Well, it's all impressive, guys. Your gastro intake this is a great way to kick the end of the show off, I think.
By going to
you have a barbecue shirt on. I mean,
yes.
you could eat some burn ends, maybe a little brisket.
We're not trying to get sponsorship here, but if you want to give us a call, Edley's in Nashville, the best barbecue joint. That's something. If I ate something for 40 days, it would. Their brisket's great, but it would be their banana pudding, Scott.
Okay,
a pound of banana pudding. How about this? Is there a dish your mom makes, like a homemade dish that you could eat, for 40 straight days? Is there something that you're like, if I could get that for 40 days in a row, I would?
Well, we didn't grow up with a lot of money, Chris, so we did eat the same thing every day. Thanks for bringing up those bad memories.
And how were those Vienna sausages?
Again, I'm the wrong guy to ask. I could eat any. My bar is very low.
Yeah.
I'm happy to eat whatever.
I've seen your bar. It's poorly stocked too. He'll drink whatever and he'll eat whatever.
Yeah.
My mom makes this chicken casserole. That I could, if the whole rotisserie chicken were in that casserole, I could eat that for 40 days in a row. I would weigh 640 pounds because I think it's loaded with like
sour cream and cheese.
3 jars of mayonnaise
yeah.
That's good stuff.
I've never had your mom's casserole, but I'm hungry.
You never will.
All right. Very good. All right. Thank you, BK. It's time to order some lunch up. A rotisserie chicken for everyone. All right. Thanks to our guest today, Brittany Lincecome. We wish her the best of luck this weekend in Bel Air. Sara Walsh, as she travels safely back from Munich, Germany. All right. To watch full-length podcasts, head to fox13news.com/NODPOD. QR code on the screen. Zap it with your phone. You can subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher. Get us every week in audio form. And, of course, you can find the show on our Splash page and all the socials as well. Much thanks to you, Chris Cato.
Well, you're welcome.
Never thought after last week I'd say that. Brian King, and, of course, our production crew here in NODPOD Studios. And until the next time we are on, there are no off days.
How do you say that in German?
I think Guten Tag?
Prost.
Okay. You've studied up. That's impressive.